Hey there everyone, Afrodo Reviews here, bringing you another review to help you decide. Is that worth reading over a second breakfast? Or does it deserve the fiery pits of Mount Doom? So let's decide. Today's book is Doctor Who, Beautiful Chaos. This is another one of the expanded works of the Doctor Who library, I guess, much like the previous book I did on the channel called Only Human. This work, however, follows the 10th Doctor in all of his David Tennant gloriousness.
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous. I'm 903 years old, and I'm the man who's going to save your lives and all 6 billion people on the planet below.
And the human companion this time around is Donna Noble instead of Rose Tyler.
What? What?
Who are you? Where am I?
What?
What the hell is this place?
This book was first published during December 8th of 2008 alongside other expanded works known as The Eyeless and The Story of Martha, which I should find. Martha Jones is the most underrated Doctor companion. There isn't too much to say on the book it's, past this, other than on April 29, 2009, actor Bernard Cribbins, the person who plays Wilfred Mott in the Doctor Who series, released an abridged audiobook version of this title. Which actually fairly fitting considering his character, Wilf, has quite the prominent role within this book itself. Anyways, without further ado, here's the report card. I really hope you guys can hear that. Now on to the cover. Now, like with Only Human, I have the 50th anniversary reprint edition, and honestly, it is a bit better than Only Humans, but not by much. The cover is at least a little more interesting, with a careful playing of the contrast of colors and saturation levels on tin while he dives through some kind of unknown things. Honestly, I can't figure out what was the point of the polygonal shapes on here on the front, with it seeming just random additions to the cover. It doesn't tell you much about the story itself, only showcasing which Doctor it is, but nothing about what's going on or the villain or anything like that. Now, the original cover is a bit better, but the clash of colors and constant movement on that cover isn't much better. Although it does give you a more clear vision of what's in the book, it does give you a bit of a headache to look at due to just how busy it is. Yeah, at least in my opinion, mind you. But now let's move on to the synopsis. Now, since I've recently cut the TBRs from my channel, at least for the moment, I obviously haven't been reading the back of the book. So I figured, you know what? Time to bring back an old tradition. Helping me out today is Rukari. She's going to read the synopsis from the back of the book, and I'll fill in any relevant plot details I feel the synopsis leaves out, for the sake of the context of my later review. So, without further ado, take it away.
Wilfred Mott is very happy. His granddaughter, Donna, is back home, catching up with the family and gossiping about her journeys. And he has just discovered a new star and had it named after him. He takes the 10th Doctor with him to the naming ceremony. But the Doctor soon discovered something else new and worryingly bright in the heavens. Something that is heading for Earth. It's an ancient force from the dark times, and it is very, very angry.
After that, there's not much to add on to that, really. It's a fairly straightforward from there, and I think it provides just enough context for what we need to talk about, without necessarily spoiling the book. So, on to the review itself, which does contain spoilers, fair warning. Now, to start with, I can honestly say that Beautiful Chaos is leagues better than Only Human, in that it at least feels like there was an attempt made to make this a real book. Whereas Only Human felt like it was basically just a script someone dug out of the trash, brushed off, and added 1 or 2 extra lines into just to make it more a book format. Beautiful Chaos felt like if it was a script, it was at least mostly rewritten to some degree to work better in the true book format. I won't lie and say it was perfect. It was actually very fanfiction-y feel to it, which might be appropriate considering that is basically what these books are. They're published fan fiction, a lot like Sherlock Holmes versus Dracula. Just, with a little more of a official stamp onto it. What I mean when I call it fan fiction-y is it does very little to set the stage for most of its set pieces or characters, offering almost no description of either, and sort of just expects you to have a mental picture of everything going on. Like, if it was a fan fiction and it's only appealing to people very into the, fandom. It also has the benefit of a slightly more realized story than Only Human, which just sort of felt like it was a series of half-baked ideas sort of roughly pushed together, with cavemen and dirty time travel and a theme of what it really means to be human, emotions and all, and how almost none of these ideas felt like they were fully realized within the book itself. Instead, each piece of this puzzle at least feels like it was rounded out before it was pushed together, and at least feels like it fits together at least on purpose. That being said, I'm not going to go out on a limb and actually say it's a good book either, because unfortunately I don't think it is. Not that it's bad, it just has some very definite flaws. For example, for as much as I'm saying it does this better than Only Human, one thing that this book and Only Human does share is that it only serves to remind you how much the actor who plays the Doctor really breathes life into the character. The Doctor in this book lacks a lot of Tennant's charm, so even when he is saying stuff that I can believe the 10th Doctor would say, it just feels off. He actually almost comes off mean-spirited at points. This actually holds true of Donna Noble as well, and her grandfather Wilf. These lines and actions fit them, but without the actors, they just feel hollow almost. It wasn't until I watched a few clips of the 10th Doctor's run with Donna that these lines started to have even a little bit of a personality, as I had a clearer image of how to picture them and who was saying them. I will also say that the plot, though interesting, very much relies on you being a super fan of Doctor Who. And I don't just mean of the revived series, starting with Eccleston's 9th Doctor. But we're talking, this book features a villain from 1976, Mask of the Mandragora, who last matched wits with the 6th Doctor.
What's that?
It's the Mandragora Helix. I thought we'd avoided it.
Oh, what's the Mandragora Helix?
It's a spiral of pure energy that radiates outwards in ways no one understands.
And while that's interesting, with the idea of the villain, it could work, and I always appreciate a reference, I can't help but feel a lot of the weight and menace behind this villain was predicated on me actually knowing who they were before. As I said, this book does very little to set the stage. And although I would consider myself a fan of Doctor Who, I'm far more well-versed in the revived Doctor series, but not so much in the older Doctor series, where I haven't been able to find too many anywhere to watch. I think there was a brief moment when it was on Netflix, but they had lost so much footage, it was hard for me to, actually keep watching it. However, allow me to say that the most difficult issue of this book is how it handles the mental illness in it to a degree. Now, obviously, I'm not an expert, and I'm not going to go out on a limb and say this book is trying to be insulting. Rather, I believe it's quite the opposite. But it has a rather unique way of using Alzheimer's disease in this book. You see, this book introduces a character who I'll just call Nettie, who's a sort of love interest in Wilf, an older astronomer woman. Nettie, however, is coming down with a very bad case of Alzheimer's, in the beginning stages, but slowly getting worse and worse as time goes on, with the beginning of the story even outright drawing parallels to the ultimate fate of Donna Noble and Nettie's advancing Alzheimer's disease, as most of the story is told as a flashback from Donna's grandfather, Wilf. Now, throughout the story, it just goes on and on and on about how strong Nettie is for dealing with this neurodegenerative disease like a champ, doing her best to maintain a normal life, not letting her limitations define her for as long as she is able. If you took a shot every time they mentioned how strong she was for this, you would be, wasted by the end of this book. And while I think it gets a little heavy-handed in the message here, I wouldn't say I dislike the idea they were going for. But I think my issue comes down with the rest of it. I think my issue comes down more with the rest of it. Trying to sell that Alzheimer's is this really horrible thing, by claiming that even billions of years in the future, after billions of years of scientific advancement in the future, that not a single method of handling Alzheimer's has actually been found, even though I'm pretty sure there are methods to transfer human brains to autonomous robots. Even the doctor, with all of his tech and time travel knowledge, can't save Nettie's slow degeneration, which feels both unnecessary and feels like something that wouldn't be true. But again, I'm not an expert, so again, take that for what you will. But the main issue I have is actually comes down to this. How do you think they defeat Mandragora? Now remember, now for reference, Mandragora is basically a malevolent psychic astral force that exists as pure energy, with enough power to draw in a TARDIS, and was considered old even before the universe was born, and is from another universe entirely. Well, obviously, the proper way to defeat it is to give it Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, they give the evil psychic energy being Alzheimer's disease, and that's how they defeat it. Truth be told, I wasn't really sure how to feel about this, honestly. I figured Nettie was going to have some degree of relationship with the climax of the book and the defeat of the villain. But I don't know how I feel about Russell, the author, Gary Russell, giving the big bad Alzheimer's to defeat them. I don't think it's intentionally offensive, but I also never dealt with the effects of the disease myself. And I do think it feels like a stretch that something that doesn't even have neural pathways would be affected by Alzheimer's. But, again, not an expert. I guess in the end, I would give this book a 5 out of 10. Yeah, overall, it's just kind of a mad book. Definitely nowhere near as bad as Only Human, which actually made it onto my worst books of the 2022. But I wouldn't hold my breath on this even getting an honorable mention in the best books of the year. It's just kind of middle of the road. There are a lot of interesting ideas, and it sort of feels a little unrealized. Definitely needed a bit more combing over the plot and the story. And it does obviously suffer that the author does not set the scene or the characters properly. But overall, it's fine. It's fine. So the question of whether or not it deserves Mount Doom is no. I mean, I can recommend this book to a couple of people, especially die-hard Doctor Who fans. It works as being a follow-up to a 6th Doctor run, while also being a 10th Doctor story, though you definitely need context to enjoy it fully. I don't think the villain will make any impression on you otherwise. And it's not bad enough that it's not bad enough that I would say avoiding it's necessary. I just would hesitate to call it good, to be honest. And that's really all I got to say about it. With that being said, just remember, with every book comes an adventure, and every adventure is worth having, even the bad ones.